The room was glass, sleek and silent. It hovered high above downtown Chicago, like a judgment throne. I stood at the far end of the Apex Nova boardroom, facing the polished table that had once been mine. Darian Hale, the new CEO, and my stepbrother stood at the head. His posture was rigid with performance. "Effective immediately," he said. "Mara Lysander is no longer part of Apex Nova. Her role has been deemed misaligned with our current trajectory." He didn't look at me. He looked past me, through me. The words weren't loud. They were surgical. The air thinned. I could feel every eye in the room pivot toward me. Whispers didn't even try to hide. Executives exchanged brief glances, calibrating their reactions like they might be next. I straightened the lapel of my blazer. "Noted," I said. A single word. Nothing more. But the silence afterward, it rang louder than any outburst, like a slap delivered without moving a hand. No one stood up for me. Lorraine Shaw's eyes flickered, torn, but she didn't speak. Not even a nod. Just that corporate stillness. Loyalty muted by survival instinct. As I turned to leave, my heels clicked against the marble floor, each step a metronome for the end of a chapter. I didn't look back. I wouldn't give Darian the pleasure. The elevator ride down felt longer than the years I'd spent building Redline from concept to core architecture. In the mirrored surface, my reflection stared back. Humiliated, yes, but clearer than ever. The doors parted. A hand slipped in before they could close. "Here." Ria Dalka, engineering lead. She barely made eye contact. Just slipped me a small USB drive. "In case you ever need to prove it was always yours." The doors closed behind her. No words wasted. In the cab, I stared at the city rushing past the window. I pressed the USB into my palm. "They think they erased me," I whispered. "They just untethered me." A ping. My phone lit up. Unknown number. One message. Now it begins. Jace Wynn. I didn't know who he was. Not really. But I knew enough to trust what he knew. Back at Apex, Darian was already spinning the story. "It's a strategic restructure," he told the remaining executives in a locked-door session. "We're clarifying leadership." He shifted the conversation to Redline, claimed it was wholly developed under Apex, Nova's banner, suggested legal action to secure it. A lie, but a polished one. Dante Hale raised a hand. "Timeline's off. Mara filed the Redline framework years ago. Independently." Darian's stare sharpened. "Family doesn't trump structure. You'd do well to remember that." Meanwhile, I sat in the dark of my apartment. Chicago's lights painted pale shadows across the floor. I opened my Redline archive. Schematics, voice memos, patent dates, everything. I remembered something Ellsworth once told me at a rare family dinner. "You're smart, Mara, but not ruthless. That's your flaw." He said it sipping bourbon, like a compliment. It wasn't. Now I whispered into the dark, maybe I'm not ruthless, but I've stopped being loyal. I opened my secure contacts list. Adric Keaton, corporate tech law. I'd turned him down before, thinking I could protect Redline from inside. That delusion had expired. I pressed call. The lights stayed off. Time to make them remember who built the empire. Have you ever been erased from your own story by someone who pretended to protect you? If you had proof you built everything, would you walk away or burn it all down? The air was damp with coastal fog as I stepped into the small co-working space just outside Seattle. No signs, no logos, just a keycode door and a battered coffee machine that groaned like it resented being used. This wasn't exile. This was the war room. I spread the documents out like a general mapping an invasion. Early patent filings, digital logs, timestamps, emails, scanned notebooks. Everything that proved Redline was mine. Mine before Apex. Before Darian. Before anyone even cared. The silence here wasn't loneliness. It was strategy. A bubble away from the noise, the scrutiny, the spin. I clicked record on my tablet and read aloud into a memo. This is Mara Lysander. Date-stamped memo for federal IP verification. Attached are records of Redline's prototype schema, created independently under Lysander Tech LLC, 3 years prior to Apex Nova's incorporation. My voice didn't tremble, not even once. The encrypted message came an hour later. Jace Wynn, silent as ever. They're accelerating the demo. Be ready. I leaned back in my chair. They built a tower on sand, I whispered. They just don't know it yet. 1,000 miles away, the marble lobby of Apex Nova glittered like nothing had gone wrong. Inside, Darian Hale straightened his tie and stepped onto the stage, flanked by LED panels pulsing with Redline branding. Investors sat in rows, each carrying expectations worth millions. Cameras rolled. This was meant to be his moment. Ria Dalka stood at the edge of the control booth, her arms crossed. The core algorithm's unstable, she had warned 2 days ago. It's missing architecture. Darian had waved her off. Redline is ready. No delays. Now lights dimmed. A soft hum rose. The screen behind him blinked. Then froze. Then, in stark white letters on a black background, license authorization expired. The audience murmured, then gasped. Then the murmurs turned to shouting. Phones came out. Flashes strobed. Panic wasn't loud, it was suffocating. Darian's jaw tightened. Just a temporary sync error, he said into the mic, sweat glistening at his hairline. No one believed him. Lorraine Shaw stepped up beside him, trying to calm the room, but the damage had already metastasized. Reporters whispered into handheld mics. One investor stood and walked out without a word. Backstage, Ria turned to her colleague. I warned him, she said, and left. In the boardroom upstairs, the meeting wasn't scheduled, but the crisis forced it. Darian stood at the head again. Someone sabotaged the launch, he snapped. A rogue engineer. We're investigating. Dante Hale folded his arms. Or maybe you rushed it. Ignored every red flag. Silence. An alert buzzed. Ria's internal memo hit inboxes, company-wide. Screens lit up with her statement. Suppressed warnings, ignored QA flags, unauthorized modifications. The blow came next. A lead investor issued a public statement within minutes. We're withdrawing our position in Apex Nova. Effective immediately, $140 million gone. Just like that. Lorraine followed Darian into the corridor. You knew she still owned the license, didn't you? She asked, voice low. Darian didn't answer. His lawyer did. We need to move, the man said. If she files first, we're dead in the water. In a glass tower downtown, I stepped into Adric Keaton's office. He didn't smile, just handed me the file. Everything's ready. Legal injunctions, copyright verification, source code timestamps, pre-filled complaint against Apex Nova for federal IP theft and misuse. I nodded once. File it. Keaton turned to his paralegal. Do it now. Before I left, I pulled an envelope from my bag and placed it on his desk. Deliver this to Ellsworth Hale. Personally. The name on the front was scrawled in my handwriting. Inside, a note. You once said I wasn't ruthless. Consider this. Growth. The sun dipped below the skyline as I drove home. On the radio, breaking, Apex Nova suspends Redline launch indefinitely following major licensing dispute and investor fallout. The city lights flickered in the rearview mirror. I didn't smile. I didn't need to. This wasn't revenge. This was restoration. What would you do if the thing you built was being stolen in front of the world? Ever had someone dismiss your voice, only to watch them fall when they needed it most? The envelope sat unopened on my desk for 3 hours. Lorraine had called earlier, her voice unusually soft. They're not just offering a position, she'd said. They're offering submission, but with a bow on top. You hold the leash now, Mara. Don't forget that. Inside the envelope, a formal offer from Apex Nova, head of strategic recovery, framed like a mea culpa, like a second chance. But I knew better. This wasn't an apology. It was an attempt at containment. I took the offer to Adric Keaton. His grin was sharp as ever. Before you respond, you should see this. He slid a sleek folio across the table, the Ardent logo embossed in silver. They weren't just offering to buy Redline. They were offering me power, total strategic authority, no board votes, no executive override. Why now? I asked. Because you're the only one left with credibility, Adric said. And teeth. That night, I left a voice memo for Jace. They expect a reunion, I said. They'll get a reckoning. The next morning, I replied to Apex's offer with a single line. I don't return to ruins I didn't cause. The ink was still drying when I stepped into Ardent's HQ. No claps, no welcome banners, just silent nods and open doors. Respect over performance. I could work with that. Adric walked beside me down the glass corridor, past a minimalist wall that pulsed with Redline's architecture. My code, my structure, now theirs. At the end of the hallway stood Ria Dalka. She blinked, stunned, then nodded. Didn't expect you'd land here. Neither did they, I said. Upstairs, I led the presentation. My voice pre-recorded, calm and deliberate, narrated the strategic collapse of Apex Nova, slide by slide. On a screen across town, Darian watched live coverage of Ardent's acquisition announcement. His jaw locked. Words never came. Within the hour, Apex's board voted. No confidence. Darian Hale was removed. No press release. No goodbye party. Just a man walking out the front door, flanked by silence. An hour later, I was invited to Apex HQ. Not to return, but to witness. Same boardroom. Same seats. The air hadn't changed. Darian's office was already stripped. Ellsworth sat alone, staring out the window like a man waiting for a train he knew would never come. Dante Hale stood to greet me, offered a handshake. I didn't take it. Redemption is earned, I said, not arranged. Lorraine stood near the door, her eyes weary. I should have said something, she offered. Silence wasn't neutral, I replied. It was consent. I turned and left, leaving behind a sealed envelope on the table. Inside, a card with one word. Noted. The headlines the next day didn't say recovery. They said merger. Ardent had absorbed Apex, not to save it, but to strip it clean. My first briefing at Ardent wasn't about celebration. It was about infrastructure, systems, culture shift. Halfway through, the door opened. A familiar face, one of Apex's old engineers, walked in wearing an Ardent badge. He didn't speak, just nodded once. That was enough. When the room emptied, I sat back and let myself breathe. The war was never about winning the room. It was about choosing which room to rebuild. The burner phone buzzed. No ID. Just 5 words. He's not done with you. I stared at the message for a long time, then whispered to no one in particular. Neither am I. Ever walked back into the room where they underestimated you? What would you say to the person who fired you if they had to watch you win?